Welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. You may remember a writer called Michael Crichton. He was a force in American entertainment. He was a novelist. He was a movie producer, turned out a ton of top films and best-selling books, The Andromeda Strain, Jurassic Park, etc., etc. But he was also, and this is less remembered, a political philosopher and a very wise one. 20 years ago, before he died, Michael Crichton delivered a talk in San Francisco about the climate crisis. And he described climate activism in that speech as the religion, not a political movement, a religion for urban atheists, for people who rejected every aspect of Judaism and Christianity. Climate activists had, without saying so out loud, created a religion. All the features you would recognize in any conventional religion. They had their Eden, which would be the world before the settlers arrived. They would have their original sin, because every religion has that. In their case, it would be the Industrial Revolution. And because of that original sin, they believed a rapture was coming, an end of times. And in their telling, the end of times was climate catastrophe. So the only way to save yourself from this rapture, from this end of times, was to renounce your energy sins and embrace climate activism. So Crichton identified this as a sign that religious beliefs are inherent. Everyone has them, even atheists. You may not worship God, but you're going to worship something, and that's true. Well, not many political theories age well, even over 20 years, but Michael Crichton's has. As church attendance and self-identified religious faith have fallen off a cliff in this country, the cult of climate has grown even stronger. Now, even the President of the United States is warning that the world is ending. Unless we pass the Green New Deal and legalize abortion until the moment of birth, Joe Biden says climate change will destroy the world. You'd better pass the Democratic Party's agenda. If you don't, you are joining, quote, the single most existential threat to humanity you've ever faced, including nuclear weapons. It's code red. Watch.
That's what climate change is about. It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake. The UN's leading international climate scientists call the latest climate report nothing less than, quote, code red for humanity. Let me say it again. Code red for humanity. And making the largest investment ever, $2.3 billion to help communities across the country build infrastructure that's designed to withstand the full range of disasters we've been seeing up to today. Extreme heat, drought, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes.
So that's not science, that's theology, but it's also politics. You'll note that Joe Biden said we're spending $2.3 billion to fix it, to, quote, help communities build infrastructure to withstand disasters. Okay, $2.3 billion. Where'd all that money go? No one ever asked. Well, it turns out a lot of it went to something called the Justice 40 Initiative. It's called the Justice 40 Initiative because 40% of the money, tax dollars, goes toward combating something called environmental racism in disadvantaged communities, meaning predominantly Latinx, Indigenous, and African American neighborhoods. In other words, this is yet more federal funding that excludes the majority of the population based on their race. That's fully illegal. That is a crime under civil rights law, which you all agree is good. Federal courts have already blocked other efforts by the Biden administration to do this kind of thing, but this effort slipped through. Why? Because it's climate. Now, you'd think the DOJ Civil Rights Division would notice if we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in a racially exclusive way against federal law, but the Attorney General of the United States has no problem with it because the climate cult demands it.
Consistent with the president's executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad, we are issuing a comprehensive environmental justice enforcement strategy. Communities of color, indigenous communities, and low-income communities often bear the brunt of the harm caused by environmental crime, pollution, and climate change.
So, of course, there's no science or data behind any of those claims. They're political slogans. They're completely made up. They're not real. But it's happening anyway. So we're directing natural disaster aid on the basis of skin color. That's insane. Are hurricanes racist? I mean, hurricanes may be bad, but are they racist? Well, the media tells us, yes, they are racist.
Decades ago, it used to be one or two a season would happen. Now with climate change and these extreme warm waters, it's almost, it's happening all the time.
This storm, in a way, is kind of bad news for the people that are still trying to deny climate change as a factor.
Florida Republicans deny climate change as a monster storm barrels towards the coast.
This will be a first-time test for how you adapt to these new, stronger storms on a warmer planet as a result of climate change.
The threat exacerbated, of course, by climate change.
Charleston, like Miami, gets water that comes up on a good sunny day. That's climate change because water levels are rising.
Our Earth is getting warmer, and there is just no doubt, I think, left that it is feeding these beasts.
You just saw like 8 people in a row who know nothing about anything. None of those people are scientists or meteorologists or even effective weathermen. They're political actors, and they're making it up. And we know that because turns out people keep track of hurricanes. There are lists of hurricanes, so we know there has been no increase in hurricane frequency in the United States from 1900 to 2020, 120 years. In fact, the number of hurricanes has actually declined over the last century. And in that same period, deaths from hurricanes, other natural disasters, have dropped by 90%. Really? But it's a bigger threat now? Deaths are dropped by 90%? So maybe the goal isn't to save human life. Maybe the goal is not to save the environment, which may be the main reason all the climate solutions destroy the environment. But whatever. Ignore the facts. In fact, the most accurate forecast suggests that hurricanes will become 25% less frequent going forward. Those are the data. No one cares about data anymore. We saw that with COVID as well. Wear a cloth mask, said Fauci, even as he privately admitted that cloth masks are useless to prevent the transmission of COVID. Take the COVID shot, Kathy Hochul told us, standing in a pulpit, because, and we're quoting, that's what God wants.